Hello again. Chris Lee and Chase Robinson here to power rank all 16 SEC teams heading into week 8. As always, we start at the bottom where, once again, Mississippi State is team number 16. But, this bunch is showing some life. Good offensive performance against Georgia. Michael Van Buren is figuring some things out. They don't have a defense, but they are going to put up a fight week in and week out, even though they are undermanned on defense. But I like a lot of what Jeff Lebby's doing. I feel like there's some proof of concept there.
Yeah, he's an offensive guy, and I think we're seeing that offensively to have that unfortunate injury to put Blake Shapen out. But I thought, Michael Van Buren stepped in. He did his job and was able to put 31 points on the board for Mississippi State against a good Georgia team. So I think that itself says a lot about kind of their scheming offensively and what they're able to do.
All right. Auburn has been stuck at 15 for a while. Hard to justify moving the Tigers anywhere else. But this is how hyper-competitive the SEC is right now. Auburn is number 31 nationally in the composite power rankings that I do, which is a compilation of 5 sources. They are 9.1 points above average. I mean, we know the story for Auburn. It's don't turn the ball over. But the Tigers – there may be something out there for them yet. I think this weekend's a big game.
It is, yeah. You got Missouri, chance to prove yourself against the number 19 team in the country. Look, Auburn, they've been in games and they just haven't found a way to win them, and that's kind of what has put them down towards the bottom. Look, I think they've got some good things offensively. It's just putting everything together, not turning the ball over, and I think finding a way to finish some games will be big for Auburn. That will definitely move them up in the power rankings. They just have to find ways to win games.
This next team, Florida, boy, overtime goes differently. Florida's probably moving up 3 spots at least, maybe 4 or 5. The Gators are 26th nationally in those power rankings that I put together. We've talked about the brutal schedule. Hey, Florida, man, if Graham Mertz doesn't get hurt, and they make some different decisions on play calling or going forward or not going forward, that maybe this looks just a lot different for the Gators on Monday.
Yeah, I think the way Florida was able to perform without Graham Mertz, without Montrell Johnson, when they went out with injury, like I was impressed with Florida. They were determined in that game to come out with a win. They did not. I thought they had opportunities to do that, several opportunities to beat Tennessee Saturday night, but I think we're seeing what we thought we could see from Florida maybe earlier on with the offensive weapons that they have. I thought they did a good job of stopping Tennessee offensively as well. I was impressed with Florida. I think, and I said this last week, I think they're trending up, and I really think they are. Like, I think they're playing better football right now, and they've got a tough schedule, but hey, I mean, if you play like that, you're going to get some wins. Like, I was impressed with the way Florida played.
All right, next up, Oklahoma. I don't know what to say other than receiving room decimated. They can't score. Yeah. That's a tough spot to be in.
Yeah, I mean, plagued with injuries, you can only do so much. It's nothing against them. They've been put in this situation with injuries. I think it's a good team, but it's a struggle right now, and things aren't looking great for the Sooners right now. And things could turn around. You get some guys back, but they're struggling offensively, and it's going to be hard to win games when you're decimated like they are by injury.
Tell you who else has got issues in the passing game. That's Kentucky, which lost to Vandy this weekend, trailed the entire time. No, that defense is still something. I think it's a top 5 unit in the SEC, but something with Brock Vandagriff just isn't clicking here.
It's not, and you got to wonder how long they're going to let that happen. When do you start trying to, try some things out? I don't know. It's just, there's issues offensively for Kentucky. There really has been all season. They've had some breaks go their way and gotten some wins, but I just feel like it's you don't want to just be kind of stagnant offensively, and I feel like that's what they are right now, just kind of stagnant, and they need to do something to get going offensively.
Well, they did go to Gavin Wimsatt in spots for that Vanderbilt game. They would sub him in for a play or two. He's the transfer from Rutgers. They would try some, running type stuff. But I just feels like that receiving room is just going to waste under this offense. All right, number 11, South Carolina. boy, if they could just stop fumbling it away, Chase, this season might look a lot different. It was right there for the taking against Alabama.
Yeah, I thought they had a great game plan going in against Alabama. Again, they took advantage of some Alabama mistakes. They had a really good ending to that first half to give them some momentum going into the second half. They made some big time catches. Nick Harbor there in the end zone got that foot down and to catch that ball. Again, they were able to sustain some drives, 16 play drives, but they got like 5 third down conversions on one drive. They held the football, kind of similar to what Vandy was doing against Alabama last week of controlling the clock. And so I thought the game plan was great. Yeah, they made some mistakes. Alabama was able to capitalize, and then that the 2-point conversion, there were some guys open. They just didn't have enough time, and all the pressure. I feel like they kind of caved under pressure in that situation. But this is a good South Carolina team that I think is going to win some more games. Will they get to a bowl? Who knows? It's a tough road ahead, but I think the way we saw South Carolina play Saturday and come back from what was a tough loss to Ole Miss where they only scored 3 points, I thought offensively they looked much better on Saturday.
Yeah, I think quarterback experience is kind of a focal point right now where I'm looking. The teams that have it seem to be playing better in a lot of cases, and the teams that don't struggle. Turnover rate of, 2.8% on offense, 2.8% of the snaps. That is the worst in the SEC aside from Auburn. All right, before we get into our top 10 reminder, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything sports betting. Every stat, matchup breakdown, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games, with the largest catalog of odds on everything from football, MLB playoffs, NHL, NBA, to political props. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino to get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of over 150 slots games. Head to the website today to get in on all the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right, we're in a cluster where it's really hard to separate teams. I mean, that's pretty much the case other than 16, 15, and 1. And Arkansas lands here coming off a bye week with a big game coming up this week. And it'd be interesting to see how the quarterback play goes for the Razorbacks, because I feel like that determines a lot of their altitude.
You're right, and it does. And the way they're able to move the ball offensively, who they're able to get going in the offensive game, I think is big for Arkansas. And they coming off that big win against Tennessee, and now they've got LSU, who's number 8 in the country. And look, they've got another home game. They've got LSU in Fayetteville. It is a night game, 6 p.m. Kickoff there. This is a big one for Arkansas to make another statement. They like to make statements, and they have another opportunity here. And we could see Arkansas move up. This is such an interesting team because it has been a bit of a roller coaster. The season could look totally different, take away a few plays. And so, this is an Arkansas team that, again, and it's kind of like the rest of these teams. They could be in a certain order, and they could look much different in a few weeks.
Yeah, interesting to see how it goes this weekend. Number 9, Missouri, a team that everybody's just kind of written off. And I get it. The schedule's been the easiest. The one really tough game that they've had, well, that's not fair to say. That Vanderbilt was a tough game. Boston College was a tough game. But everybody remembers the performance at A&M. They went to UMass and beat down a horrible UMass team. Why that was a road trip, I don't know. But don't sleep on Missouri. Carroll had a nice rushing game this weekend. They got a 2-headed rushing attack. I think Burden got a big play early in the game. Defense is solid. I feel like everybody's kind of written this team off, and I'm not sure that's the right take.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, they like you mentioned, they got a great ground attack. Brady Cook's a good quarterback. Look, they've got a schedule that I think they could win quite a few more games, and starting with Auburn this week and hosting them in Columbia. So, yeah, I think that it's easy to write a team like that off. But, hey, I mean, they're sitting here 5-1 on the season. Like, they only have one loss. Everything that Missouri wants is still ahead of them, like several teams in the SEC. And so, yeah, don't write them off. I think this is a good Missouri team that definitely has some more wins, and they can crank out some wins and get some good teams. If they do that, the sky's the limit for Missouri, I feel like.
Well, the Tigers did beat the team right in front of them. That's Vanderbilt. And what is turning out to be a big win. Who knew? I've got some stuff on Vanderbilt that is just crazy, okay? Vanderbilt's a 13.5-point underdog in the opener against Virginia Tech. Our model had it about 11. Vanderbilt wins that one 34-27 in overtime. Next week, 34.5-point favorites over Alabama. Alcorn State wins that one 55-0. 8.5-point favorites over Georgia State, loses that one 36-32. Vanderbilt's got the best win and the best loss in the league so far. The next week against Missouri, 20.5-point underdogs, goes to double overtime and loses by a field goal. Alabama game, a 24.5-point underdog at one point. I think it got down to 20.5, wins that one 40-34. And then Kentucky, 12-point dogs in Lexington. Vanderbilt wins that one 20-13. So Vanderbilt has been a double-digit dog four times, won 3 of those, took the other one to double overtime, and the only time it was a favorite against an FBS team, it lost on the road.
That's wild. It's absolutely wild. Yeah, I mean, look, the more I watch this Vanderbilt team, the more I like them, and the more that I think that they're not over writing history. I mean, this is just watching Diego Pavia and that one throw he made the other night for the touchdown, just incredible. I really like his play. I like the story, and for Vanderbilt to be relevant makes SEC football that much better.
Yeah, Vanderbilt leading the SEC in third down conversions on offense. That's a big reason this team just keeps outperforming every line, every computer projection, you name it. All right. Boy, Ole Miss is an awfully good team at number 7. And I know the narrative on Ole Miss is what it is at this point, that is going to be a disaster situation with that collective if they don't get to the playoffs. And Ole Miss at this point, I think, has got to win out, which I think it can do. Still a good team on paper, still a good team statistically, but when Ole Miss has run into the big dogs, it is now 0-2. I thought that game was there for the taking. I don't really understand the play calling down the stretch of regulation when they had a shot to get in field goal range and maybe do something. Ole Miss, anyway, with its backs against the wall heading into week 8.
Yeah, I mean, you got 2 losses now on the season. And we were talking with Brad Logan, who covers Ole Miss last week in an interview, and he even said, he felt like in this Ole Miss LSU game, the loser of this game, their chance at the playoff went down drastically. And Ole Miss, there's going to be a lot of 2-loss teams, I feel like, that they're going to have to figure out where to place in the playoffs. And Ole Miss, again, has to win out, I feel like, for a shot at the playoffs. The way the season's going, the number of 2-loss teams we'll see. They are in a situation, their back's against the wall. They need to win out. If they don't, it's going to be tough sledding for the Rebels.
How would you explain Ole Miss to a 10-year-old?
Oh, my goodness. I don't even know where to start. I really don't.
Well, if you're trying to do it, I don't know how to explain Ole Miss, but I know how you would explain football to a 10-year-old. And it would start with this. Future fans, you can see right behind me, there's a kit. This thing is available for $49. It is tremendous. It is a way to explain football to your kids. It involves games. It involves a lot of things. It is the coolest tool that I've ever seen. The stories of people who have used this game to get their sons and daughters interested in football are phenomenal. I've talked to multiple people personally who have used it. So, look, the idea is to teach kids football through games, through lessons, through things like that. We will be explaining some of the features of this kit in future videos, but the book, that's kind of where it starts. You can see that the kit in front of me, nicely boxed. We will put a promo code in here, SEC, that gets you 10% off if you're getting ready for Christmas, for birthdays, for whatever. Great gift to have. So get in line, get this game. You will see the link in description for future fans in our video here. Support those who help our product. Get 10% off with the promo code SEC. You will be very glad you bought this for your kids or your grandchildren. So what I'll be glad for, that's when Alabama-Tennessee gets here. What a game this is going to be. We know what happened last time the Vols hosted Alabama. It must be rivalry season because Tennessee goes straight from one bitter rival to another, beating Florida in overtime and heading into what I think will be another game that goes to the final minutes with Alabama.
Yeah, this is an interesting Tennessee team that I feel like we're constantly learning about. Again, they had a great start to the season. I think Florida challenged them in a lot of different ways. Arkansas challenged them, obviously, in a lot of different ways that we're starting to see kind of what this Tennessee team is. And are there issues? Yes, we could say that with every team. But yeah, I'm interested to see moving forward what Tennessee can do, how they're able to move the ball offensively, what they're able to do defensively. I think, again, there's a lot of questions, but this is a good Tennessee team. Love their defensive front. That's going to be a challenge for whoever plays Tennessee. But I do think they bring some good things. And again, Tennessee, to make the playoff, they've got to get some big-time wins, and it starts this Saturday against Alabama.
All right, number 5, Texas A&M. The Aggies come off a bye week, had last time out against Missouri maybe the most dominating performance we've seen from an SEC team this year. A lot of momentum for A&M, 5-game winning streak. I think that's the longest in the conference. And now the Aggies get a road trip to Mississippi State. It'll be their second road SEC game this year. The other one, a 33-20 win at Florida.
They're playing really good football right now, and I like what they're able to do. I think, again, Texas A&M could be one of those sneaky teams that can sneak up on some folks, and they control their own destiny. They really do. I mean, this is a good team that's playing good right now.
Yeah. Everybody kind of forgot about LSU. We talked about it. Like, everybody is not talking about these guys. Guess what? Speaking of teams that lost the opener in close fashion and have come back to put on a winning streak, that's the Tigers. Blake Baker's got that defense playing better than I thought. Garrett Nussmeier, maybe a sleeper SEC Player of the Year candidate. It's Kyren Lacy with the touchdown in overtime to beat Ole Miss. Big games coming up for LSU, and the Tigers have a legit shot to make the playoff.
They do, and we haven't been talking about them, and then you lose Harold Perkins, and we're like, well, what is this LSU defense going to be? I was still impressed with them. I thought the way they handled Ole Miss, their game plan, and I thought it was terrific. And Garrett Nussmeier, he's great. Like, he's waited his turn for this role, for this job, and he's taking advantage of it. I love what I'm seeing from LSU.
Yeah, they figured out a way to get a pass rush, and I think that was a big thing. They exploited a little bit of a weakness in Ole Miss in that offensive line. And so congrats to the Tigers. Big things ahead on that schedule. We'll see what they make of it. All right, number 3, Alabama, which I had an issue with. It did beat Georgia head-to-head, but I get that the lasting images since then to Vanderbilt and South Carolina not really kind to this team. But, boy, you beat Tennessee and Knoxville, and outlook on the season changes again.
Yeah, Alabama, a win's a win. Was it pretty? No. I think there's some things to clean up defensively. Again, you give teams long drives. Again, I go back when we were talking about South Carolina. They had a 16-play drive against Alabama that ended in a touchdown. They got 5 third downs. You can't let that happen. I mean, the defense has got to get off the field, and that puts you behind on controlling the clock. And so there are some issues with Alabama. I think, we sit here and nitpick Alabama so much, but they got the win over South Carolina. South Carolina did some good things against Alabama. And so, I think, again, they've got that one loss, but they control their own destiny. They keep winning, and Alabama's going to keep moving up because they're a good football team. They got to clean some stuff up, clean some penalties up. That's been another big thing, but I like the spot Alabama's in right now.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see if they can refocus. I think just decision-making at times a little questionable. Discipline's been an issue. You talked about penalties. Have an onside kick bounce off 3 guys. I mean, I don't know that was lack of effort. Maybe sometimes it's just dumb luck, but just been a really strange 3 weeks for Alabama after dominating Georgia in that first half, hanging on for dear life, and then we know what happened the next 2 weeks. All right, kind of by default, Georgia at 2. Again, I have a disagreement with that because Alabama and Georgia did play head-to-head, and Alabama won. Georgia's defense also, to me, Chase, just not anything close to what we're used to, and that's a concern.
It is a concern. That's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, this is a Kirby Smart coach team. He's the defensive guy. I thought they would be better. They gave up 31 to Mississippi State. Again, they let Alabama jump out to that huge lead, which I think Alabama could have beaten, anybody on that Saturday night in Tuscaloosa. But I feel like there's just some questions on Georgia's defense, and I think there's several teams we can say that about, and we have said that about. But offensively, they look great. Carson Beck is turning the ball over an uncharacteristic amount. That's kind of concerning too, going down the stretch. Will he continue to turn the ball over? But yeah, defense is a question mark for me for the Bulldogs.
Yards per play allowed each game. Clemson, by the defense, Clemson 3.6, Tennessee Tech 2.8, Kentucky 3.9. Bye week, Alabama comes out, gets 8.4, Auburn gets 5.8, and then Mississippi State gets 6.1 yards per play.
Wow.
Yeah. That's why I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Even though, and that's another reason I had Alabama ahead of them. I mean, and look, God help you if you can sort through these teams, but you got to make a decision based on something, and that's where I departed from the crowd. All right, this was easy for everybody. Texas, unanimous number one. Tougher part of the schedule to come. Again, the Longhorns drew one of the easier slates in the league, but let me read you some numbers for Texas's defense so far. 3.4 yards allowed against Oklahoma. Defensively, I know Oklahoma is struggling, but I think that's a big number there. 4.0 against Mississippi State, 2.2 against ULM, 3.8 against UTSA, 6.2 against Michigan, 3.4 against Colorado State. That's working from last week, going backwards. This is the most balanced team on offense and defense. It's deep. I don't think any of us had a problem with putting Texas at 1.
To me, they're far and above the best team in the SEC. And I think, again, this Saturday against Georgia, they can make a bigger separation if they are to get a big win. But I like Texas. They're playing great right now. They're doing all the right things. Could they drop one? They could. But from what I saw Saturday against Oklahoma, they may not lose a game. Like, to me, they're that good. Like, they do everything well. They're deserving of that number one.
Yeah. Looking forward to seeing them in my hometown in Nashville here against Vanderbilt next week. And be my first chance I've ever seen the Longhorns in person, and looking forward to that. All right, we've got basketball coming up. I'm planning to get to SEC Media Days in Birmingham tomorrow. So we're doing that. We've got baseball coverage here every week. We've got all kinds of stuff. So if you don't subscribe to the channel, you need to. Enable your notifications so you see our content. Hit the like button. That helps our analytics. And if you want to subscribe, we reach millions of people every year. Caroline.smith@southeastern14.com. For Chase Robinson, I'm Chris Lee. You've been watching Southeastern 16, presented by BetOnline.